Mike, well, you've won the Derby 2 times, and both in completely different fashions, right? You had Justify, who was up there tracking the pace all the way around there, and then you had Giacomo, who came from way out of it, and you had to do your best weaving and bobbing and weaving job down the stretch. Which one of those 2 rides do you prefer of the 2?
Well, I mean, they were both. I mean, I did my job both days, man. So I did well both days on those 2 occasions, anyway. So, but it's always fun coming from way back. When you come from way back and you can weave in and out of crowds and you either get through on the fence or split horses and stuff like that. That's always a bit funner. Justify was just naturally much quicker, man, and he left the gate so good. And it's always easier when you have a horse that does that. You don't have to worry about the traffic or getting behind a wall of horses that stop in front of you, or horses shutting you off or bouncing you around. And so it's certainly a whole lot easier whenever you have tactical speed like Rodriguez does.
Want to let folks know this video brought to you by our friends at Twinspires.com. The Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge coming up on Derby Day. You can qualify all month long. Twinspires.com. Navigate over to that tournaments tab. Get involved with horse racing's latest major tournament.
Something tells me that if you win the Derby with Rodriguez, it won't be like Giacomo coming from way out of it. Talk a little bit about the Wood Memorial. It was your first time on Rodriguez. I've told you this personally. My favorite thing to do is see Mike Smith on the lead. And you did that with Rodriguez. You put him out there on the front end. You let him get comfortable, and you did what you've done so many times with good horses on the front end.
Yeah, thank you. I'd watch him break his maiden, and he broke his maiden really impressive. So you knew there was some talent there. And then you see his last 2 prep races before the Wood, you wouldn't pick him for your Derby horse with those two preps, but they were kind of taking him out of his game. He had a little bit of a blinker on, and Bob had 2 others in there with speed as well. And they were trying, one of them's got to ease back, and they thought he'd be the one that could do it. And he just didn't care for it. He's a bit like his father, he was a bit still green at the time and didn't care for them grabbing him and the kickback and all. And Bob removed the blinkers, told me he's still going to be quick, warm him up and listen, ride him like you want to, but just jump out of there and then see where that puts him, And man, he warmed up so good that day, and he left there so good, Jonathan. I just left him up there, man. You can see the difference in his body language between his last 2 prep races and in the Wood. He's so comfortable going around the first turn and so happy going down the backside. I knew he was going to run big, and they came at him early, so I thought, well, this is going to prove now if he really belongs. And not only did he withstand that early move, he finished with something left. So he was really impressive.
Now, Mike, I think a lot of questions for all these horses, are they going to handle the 1.25 miles? And for some reason, the speed horses get that question a little bit more, which I think is kind of silly. I think closers can have a problem getting 1.25 miles as well. But what is your feel? I think that riders obviously have the best perspective. You sat on his back. What is your feel on how he'll handle any added distance?
The way he pulled up after the Wood, Jonathan, really made me. That's another thing that really made me feel good was he wasn't weary-legged. Had to stand there for a second or 2 to catch his breath before he turned around and came back. I mean, the outrider literally had to grab him and had to help me pull him up, and he came back with a lot of energy. So that makes me feel that he should definitely get an extra 1/8 of a mile anyway. He could have on that day. Of course, the pace will be different and of course the race and the track surface will be different. But I mean, he handled the 1.8 miles really, really well. And I watched him work the other morning, and his gallop out was tremendous. As a matter of fact, if you'll be more impressed with the gallop out than you will the actual work. So that just makes me feel that he should get the 1.25 miles.
Mike, the obvious interesting dynamic is that as a rider, you've got kind of 2 clients that you're working for, right? You're working for the owners, and you're working for the trainer. And sometimes the trainer will have 2 in the race, but different ownerships. It can be a little tricky. There's 2 horses in this race. They're going to have pretty similar styles. You and Citizen Bull, both trained by Bob Baffert and both owned by the SF Madaket et al. Group that has all these good colts. Do you have any idea what you think is going to happen in that situation? Whether you feel like you're going to just end up riding your own race? Do you think you're going to have some instructions from the group on where they plan to send you or send the other one? Do you have any thoughts there?
I think some of that will depend on the draw too as well, Jonathan. Once they draw, you know, you kind of get to see where everyone's at. But listen, I think they're gonna let us ride our race. I know Bob already told me, man. He's yours, man. You go out there and have fun, and so, you know, I'm not gonna take away nothing that comes easy to him. You know, he's naturally quick. You hope you jump well, and he'll be forward. You know, I think he just really needs to be in a rhythm, Jonathan, and just left alone. Just let him be happy, and I think he'll run well for wherever that's at. But I mean, if someone wants to be in front of them, they're going to have to probably run pretty quick to do it.
I've loved hearing you talk about that, where you've talked about with a speed horse, just dropping your hands and just letting them get comfortable. And I've told you this before. You're the one who's kind of taught me that sometimes it's better for a fast horse to go faster than it is for a fast horse to go slower early in the race. When you won forward from the 7, would you prefer with a speed horse like this to be a little bit further out? I mean, I know you can't control that, but would you prefer to be further out than the 7 that you won with Justify?
Yeah, that, you know, again, that just depends on where the other speed's at, where they draw. It just depends. Listen, the draw's not as a big deal now with the new gate that it used to be, John. Man, I mean, before, man, you were really worried about drawing the 1, 2, 3, because you're literally pointing out the inside rail. You have to kind of go right to get clear, and if you got away just a step slow, man, you wind up out the back half the time. Now with the new gate, it's not as a big a deal. No one ever really wants the 1 just because you're sitting there so long, and you're forced to either, seems like you either got to go or you have to take back, and sometimes you have to take farther back than what you wanted to. But sometimes a bad post turns into a really good one, and I've certainly had that happen before as well. So I think good horses kind of overcome that kind of stuff, but yeah, you want to draw somewhere out in the middle, you know, somewhere out where you could be comfortable and clear, and not forced to have to do something that you really don't want to do early. So you certainly want to draw anywhere from, I would say, the 7 on out.
Mike, I'm convinced that you got another one in you. So I hope it's this one. We wish you the best of luck. Safe trips around there.
Amen. Thank you, buddy. Let's from your mouth to God's ears, man. Let's do it.